everybody, welcome back to Auto Scholar with Mr. B. I'm Mr. B, and today we are going to learn how to change the oil on a Generation 3 Prius or a Lexus CT200h. So I have this 2013 Lexus CT200h here. This is the same drivetrain, same specifications, same procedure as a 2010 through 2015 Toyota Prius. So if you have a Prius, don't worry. This is all the same. Don't just pretend this is a Prius. So the oil change specification is, there's some arguments whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 miles or so. It's probably the truth is in between somewhere. So I just bought this vehicle. I don't know what type of oil is in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and change the oil. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to pop the hood and go ahead and just check everything underneath the hood. So, I just bought this car, so I've already done that, but I just want to show you a couple of things that I do. Is I go ahead and check all the fluid levels. Remember, you have two coolant levels. You have your engine coolant level over here, and you have your inverter coolant over here. You need to check both those levels and make sure that they are good to go. Also check your brake fluid level, make sure it's good, make sure the fluid is looking clean. And I do have a video on testing the brake fluid. I'll put up on the description as well if you want to test your brake fluid. And I'm just checking and making sure I don't have any obvious oil leaks, any fluid leaks, any weird smells, anything like that. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is just take off this engine cover just to get it out of the way. And it just pulls off whether you have a Prius or a Lexus. And this will expose the top of the engine. And so this is your oil cap here. And what I normally like to do is just go ahead and check the oil and make sure where my oil level is. And you'll see, the oil level is right here, just a little bit below maximum. Oil looks clean. The dealership changed the oil before they sold this vehicle to me, but I don't know what type of oil they put in it. So I just want to make sure that I put the correct oil in it. So after that, just check everything underneath here, and then we'll go ahead and lift it up and get the oil drain. Okay, here are some of the tools and supplies we're going to need. First of all, we're going to need a oil filter. I got mine from Lexus, and this is a cartridge style filter. So it's very small. It does have the O-ring on it as well, which you will need. If your oil filter does not come with an O-ring, you need to get a different oil filter. And we have our crush washer here for our drain plug. This is a aluminum crush washer, and it has a rubber outside. And you definitely want to change these out when you're doing your oil change. That way you don't develop a leak. Of course, we have the oil here. This is the Mobil One 0W20. The 0W20 is what Toyota and Lexus recommends that you buy for the vehicle. There are some people that run, a little bit heavier of an oil. Just realize if you run a heavier oil, you're going to be taking away from the fuel economy that we know and love, and this car is so capable of. A thinner oil is going to produce less resistance in the engine and give us a better fuel economy. And Mobil One is a pretty good oil. I've used it in a lot of my vehicles, and I'm going to use it in this one. Also, if you have any other fluids that we're going to add, I use the Rain-X 2-in-1 washer fluid. If you live in a colder climate, you may want to get their de-icer, but since I live in the southern United States, it's not that cold. And then of course, we're going to need some type of parts cleaner, carb cleaner, something like that, just to clean off any excess or spilled oil that we get while we're draining the oil out of the vehicle. Okay, the tools we need. First thing we're going to need is a 14 millimeter either wrench or socket and ratchet, and that is for the drain plug. Also, we're going to need a special tool for the oil filter. Now, I got this on Amazon. I haven't used it yet, so I don't really know how good it is, but I guess we're about to find out. And I think I paid about $9 for it, so I'll put the link. It's got a hex on the top if you want to use a wrench, and the square drive for the 3/8 drive ratchet. These are nice, not really mandatory, but this is a clip puller. Lexus and Toyota both use these plastic clips that have the center insert, and this goes and just pulls the insert out and makes things a lot easier, but you can use a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. And of course, we're going to need a torque wrench to torque my drain plug and my oil filter. If you don't have a torque wrench, just try to do the best you can, but I am going to give you torque specs and everything for each fastener as we go along. Okay, before we start on the underneath of this vehicle, I just want to go over a couple of safety tips with you. Because this is a hybrid vehicle, you need to go ahead and take your keys out of your pockets and get them far away from the vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that before I start working. And if you're still a little wary, you can go ahead and disengage the safety plug in the back and disconnect the 12-volt battery. However, that normally is not necessary for just a basic oil change. And if you are working on, the ground and you have either ramps or jack stands, make sure that the wheels are chalked up, and make sure if you're using a jack that you're using a proper jack stand and the car is stable before you get underneath the vehicle. And with your waste oil, make sure it gets recycled in the proper place so we don't have an ecological issue or anything like that with this used oil. Let's go ahead and get started underneath the car. Okay, so we are underneath the car now. I have it up on my rack, and you'll see a big plastic plate underneath here. And this plastic plate is made for aerodynamics and just keeping trash outside of your engine, and also, of course, comfort from the wind buffering inside. So you'll have an access panel right here, and it has 3 little clips on it. And I went ahead and just kind of pulled the center out of these clips with that clip tool that I use. And so you'll pull out these 3. And this will fold down, okay? And you'll see we have our oil filter housing right here, and we have our drain plug right here. If you happen to have one of these bungee cords right here, they come in handy. Just go ahead and loop this around, and we'll pull this forward and keep it out of the way. That way oil is not running down it and causing a mess. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and loosen this. Okay, and we'll position our drain pan so we don't get anything dirty and make a mess. And we'll get the oil draining. Okay, and so as this comes down to a trickle, you can let it drain as long as you want to. I'm going to go ahead and put the new seal on the drain plug, and we'll go ahead and just thread it in by hand. There's no need to put a whole lot of ratchet or anything on it right now. Just thread it in until it stops with your hand. And then we were going to torque this to 37 Newton meters or 27 foot-pounds. That'll make sure that everything is crushed down correctly. All right, now we're going to take the filter off. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use the outside part of this oil filter wrench, and a 26 millimeter is going to fit on that nut, and that's going to give me enough leverage to get that off with no problem. And so yeah, the last person to put this on just put it on extremely too tight, and that's why it's very important to torque this stuff down. So what I do is I just loosen it up, I let it drain. You will get some residual oil out of here. You can let it drain slow. Go ahead and take this out. And the filter will just pop out. And you have an O-ring right here that needs to be replaced. Okay, this green O-ring. So we'll put the O-ring that we got out of the package. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this out with my brake cleaner and clean this area out and just make sure it's all clean before we put this back together. So here is my cleaned up filter housing here. I got the new O-ring on it. You see it's a different color than this one, which probably means this isn't a original Lexus or Toyota filter. And then our filter right here, it doesn't seem to have an up or a down. So no matter how you put it in there, it should be fine. Put it down in there, and then we'll go ahead and screw this back in there and we'll torque it down. Okay, so we're going back with the new filter. You want to go ahead and get you some oil and just run around this O-ring here, and we're just going to thread this on with our hands. And this torques down at 18 foot-pounds, 25 Newton meters, depending on if you're metric or standard. So we're going to go ahead and put this filter cup back on here. It only goes on a couple different ways, so make sure that it goes all the way on there. We'll get our torque wrench. I've already got it set up. You just want to go slow. Definitely don't use an air tool or anything. Once you start to get that resistance, you want a good clean pull. And that's all you need. Now we're just going to clean the area with brake cleaner. Make sure all the residual is gone. This is not only going to be a more professional finish, but it's also going to let us know if we see oil down here later, we know something's leaking. And it's not just residual. So we'll take our bungee cord off. And we'll put our hatch back. Okay, so next step is putting the oil in the car. So what I normally do is I just spray this area real quick with brake cleaner and wipe this up. I don't want to get anything in the engine. So keep the cap on. I do that just to get all the dirt and debris away from this area. Go ahead and take the oil cap off. You always want to use a funnel unless you have a really steady hand. I do not, so make sure whatever funnel you're using is clean. Then of course we are going to go in with our oil. This is 5 quarts in this big bucket here, but we're only needing 4.4, so just keep an eye on it once you get down towards the bottom, and just check your oil with your dipstick to make sure that the oil level is accurate. Once I get the most of the jug in, I'm going to start checking it with my dipstick. Now the filter doesn't have any oil in it right now, so it needs to pretty much read maybe a little bit before max before we crank up the vehicle. Because once I crank the vehicle up, the oil level will actually drop a little bit. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today in this lesson in changing the oil on the Generation 3 Prius and the Lexus CT200h. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you found any value in this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like it. And remember, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, VK if you're in Eastern Europe. And I post a lot of content there that I can't post on YouTube. So just find me there. I should be under Auto Scholar Mr. B. And like or subscribe to whatever platform that you normally use. And I'm just going to go ahead and clean up this car for the weekend. So hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Auto Scholar Mr.